You're listening to the Empowering Process podcast with your host, Gail Kraft. Listen as she holds frank discussions around how your purpose, being present, and trusting your power impacts your life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, leader, or developing your vision, you'll find wisdom and insights you can utilize right now. Welcome your host, Gail Kraft.
I'm always ready.
Hello, everybody. Gail Kraft here from the Empowering Process podcast. And I have Steve Feld with me. And Steve is a serial entrepreneur, I think I want to say. You are a builder, so you say, and so many other things. And we're going to talk about business, which is a little bit different than where I normally go. However, it's not. So, for example, Steve is going to talk to you about bursting the bubble or when the bubble bursts. I'll start off with around that time. Was it around? No, it wasn't around that time. It was actually in it was like 2008, when that bubble
That's
burst.
the economic downturn.
Right. At that time, I got fired. Now, I was on board of directors of national companies. I was working for international companies. I was successful like crazy. And I move across country and work for this company and they fire me. Did I take it personally? I got it so personal, honey. I got myself a lawyer and sued their butt. Right. Right. I took it very personal and I became incredibly toxic because of it. And, honestly, for me, it was the best gift that they could have given me because I became an entrepreneur. I turned my life around. And after that, I became an empowerment coach. But I had to go through that kick in the ego. Right. And so we're going to talk about the first success because my first success made me believe I was invincible. Right. So welcome, Steve. Let's talk about that technology bubble, that .com era where everybody was going out to the internet and everybody was going to be a millionaire. Let's talk about that.
Well, at the time, the tech bubble, then was more hardware than software. So the internet was still in its, believe it or not, folks, so this is 2001. The internet was still in its infancy.
Right.
It really wasn't introduced to the public for maybe 4 or 5 years before that. But it was about hardware and servers because now things can be transmitted over the internet. So the tech bubble was highly hardware centric. So it was about networks, servers, and everything else. But venture capital money was flowing like a broken dam. And I happened to start my very first business writing business plans, which involved in the marketing plans, operational plans. And then my clients they're all techies. I'm not a techie. And they're like, I need venture capital money, but they have to go speak in front and pitch their idea to venture capitalists. Well, at the time, there was no techies on these venture capitalist teams, a lot different nowadays. They were all business people. So I had to actually coach my clients how to speak the language of business, which is numbers, and to speak non-techie because they're business people. They're not techies. They have money.
Right.
They want to make money. So I started coaching my clients. Business was great. I kid you not. I was probably working 18, 20-hour days, 7 days a week. I had a team. I couldn't even bring on people fast enough. I had a waiting list. I'm cranking out business and marketing plans and coaching people. It was like a license to print money, but meanwhile, I'm getting paid in stock certificates because these people are getting venture capital money. So I'm getting paid in stock certificates. And everything was going good. But when the bubble burst, so did my business. Within, I'd say, very much overnight or within 3 days, everything dried up, gone. I would call people, all their phones are disconnected because they had to stop their phone service because they can't pay for it now.
They have lots of toilet paper.
I had binders and binders of stock certificates that on paper I was worth around $5 million. In reality, it was kindling,
Right.
and that's all it could be used for.
Right.
So I did what any entrepreneur would do because everything was going good. I went in my room, turned off the lights, curled up in a corner, and cried for 3 days. Because I mean, I lost everything. I lost my dignity. I failed everyone. I thought I failed my clients. I failed my family, everyone. And then on the third day, I said, it's time to buckle up and put on my big boy pants again. And it hit me. I'm going to start my second company consulting for all the companies that are left who have been now beaten to death and they're still around because they already got the money in the bank.
Right.
So
So let's stop right there for a second, because there are a couple of things that I'd love to touch on. One is you gave yourself permission to mourn.
You have to. I mean, I lost everything.
Right.
The house is about ready to go
Right.
because I'm
But
getting
then you said, okay, that's enough.
yeah.
Now it's time for me to figure out what's next. And here's where the business, I want to say business sense, but it's common sense. Here's what the landscape looks like.
Yeah.
Here's the gap in the landscape. And here's my capabilities, not skill, capabilities to fill that gap. So talk about that. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it didn't hit me until literally the third day.
Yeah.
And late at night, I mean, I didn't eat for 3 days because I was just sick.
Yeah.
It just killed me. And when it hit me, I'm like, there's still companies around who already got the money in the bank. They probably just lost half their staff. They don't know which way's up right now and what the future holds for their industry.
Right.
And then I'm thinking, they're techies. They're not business people. They don't know how to recover from this. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, with all my business knowledge, I do know how to recover from this. And then it was like, and it took a while to put the pieces together. It sounds obvious now, but at the time it's like, it's like puzzle pieces. You got them in piles. And you don't
and
know
here
what
are
to
the
do.
edges, and here's these colors go together.
Yeah, I got the edges and I got like the car built. And
Right.
I don't know where it goes inside the puzzle. And it finally hit me. In that night, I just started writing how I'm going to do it. And the next morning, I went through, the old Rolodex of who I knew. If anyone picked up their phone, I would try to get an appointment with them.
Right.
And I just started pounding all my contacts' information and got in a couple appointments within the first couple days. And they told me their horror story. And I told them my horror story. And I said, here, I can fix your horror story. I've already fixed mine.
So imagine, and this thought hit me today, not really thinking about what we were going to talk about, but it hit me because I've been having over the past month strange technology issues popping up. What would happen if we woke up one morning and someone had pulled the plug on the internet? Right now, the dot-com bubble bursting was not quite as big as that, but it still had that kind of like, holy crap type of
It
impact.
had a ripple effect.
Yes, it had a ripple effect. And it probably delayed the internet rolling out.
It delayed, the growth of it.
Yeah.
That's why certain companies thrived in that moment, like AOL,
right?
Prodigy. But look at them now. They thrived in that moment. They were not adaptable to change.
Right.
A different story.
Right. And this is the key, adaptable to change. And that's kind of like where I'm going with this, If that happened, I know for me, the podcast and stuff that I love doing and the connecting with the people through the internet that I love doing would stop. but I also do motivational speaking and in-person stuff. So I would be picking that up, right? What is plan B? And plan B is just like, what am I doing now that I could continue to do without that? How would I get the gigs? I would have to do it like I did in the old days, and that's get in my car and drive to a networking event. But that's
Yeah,
it.
I've been telling businesses for I don't know how long, get your contacts off those platforms. Get them in your databases. And give you an example. I was working with another coach, fellow coach, and they said, I have 30,000 connections on LinkedIn. I go, great. How many of them do you have off that platform? Because if LinkedIn says, Microsoft says tomorrow, we're shutting LinkedIn down, now what?
And they can, because
can't.
right? Because LinkedIn used to be independent. And then about 3 years ago, Microsoft purchased them, right?
Mhm.
And yes, they've been doing some fun things with LinkedIn to encourage people, to make it a lot more usable, a lot more transparent, um, easier to use, kind of, sort of. But Microsoft is also known for discontinuing stuff.
Right. And I kept saying it's like you got to get them off that platform. You don't
Right.
own it. Same with Facebook, all of them. Get those people off the platform in years. So let's say the internet like plug got pulled. The world's gonna have a big ending because that everyone's on it.
Right.
But guess now what? You have it in your database as long as phone service is still around, which it would be. Guess what? Business can continue. But if
Right.
you keep those 30,000 connections on LinkedIn and LinkedIn shuts down, you're done.
Right.
We saw it with the Facebook shut down for 3 days. I knew businesses who were doing $100,000 a day through Facebook, and they got shut down for 3 days. To this day, they have not recovered because they lost so much business.
Isn't that crazy? That's the put all your eggs in one basket
That's
is
it.
foolish.
Get them
Foolish.
off of those platforms.
Right. And so this is, so the lesson that you learned, number one, is stuff happens,
Yeah.
right?
Had all my
Right.
eggs in one basket.
You had all your eggs in one basket. Um, but oh well, now what am I going to do? What
Mhm.
am I capable of? And how do I do it? Right. And you are a serial entrepreneur. You didn't think of who do I need to go, who can I do I have to work with now? Where do I go get a job? Right. Job, right? Just over broke. Is that what it is? Job,
Just
just
over
over
broke.
broke. Right. That's where they keep you. Right. Um, but as an entrepreneur now, you're not going to be a millionaire. There are lots of entrepreneurs that are millionaires,
Mhm.
right? Many people go into being an entrepreneur for that reason,
Yeah.
and then are sorely surprised to find out that you have to work harder than if you were working for someone. There's a reason why it's a job. You only have to work 40 hours a week. You don't have to make a meeting on Saturday. You don't have to do some work on the internet on Sunday. You don't have to hold a meeting at 8 o'clock at night when you're exhausted, right? Um, so there is a reason for that. But for me, there's freedom of choice.
Yeah. I mean, I teach business owners and show them it's like, yeah, you could build $1 million business. It's like the first thing you're going to have to do is let go of your baby a little bit, your business. You got to
Right.
learn how to delegate.
You have to
And a
learn to
lot of
manage a business.
business owners, that's their number one struggle. They won't let it go, let it go. If you want to grow and scale and get that multi-million and multi-million, guess what, folks? You got to give up some control.
Right. And you need to create systems and processes, guidelines. I have a client that I worked with for a while who had a business, and we talked about you need to write down what this job description is that you're delegating. So there were about 3 or 4 positions we talked about, and you're doing all of it now. So take 3x5 cards around with you and note something down as it comes up, and then put it in order, because this is, and then once you know that, How do you manage it?
That's it.
Not do it, but teach it, then manage it. Right?
That's it. And that's one of the top struggles for small business owners. It's all up here. And like I say, if a bus hit you tomorrow, because you don't know, what happens to your business? And I always get the same look and answer. I don't know. And it's because they don't have even an exit strategy in their business. So
Right.
how do you know where to take your business if you don't know the goal?
Thank you. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about exit strategy in all areas of our life, if you even have one. One of the things that I did long before I was an entrepreneur, as like I said, it's very successful in business. And so I had friends who wanted to go into business for themselves, and they would turn to me to help them develop their business plan and strategy for marketing and getting money, right? On the side, sure, I'll do that. It's not a problem. And the first question there were a couple of questions. What's the purpose? What's your why? Long before, right? The why being the big thing. We're talking in the 90s. What's your why? Why is this important to you? And how do you differentiate yourself from everybody else? What makes you different and unique? And is it strong enough? And then who do you want to be when you grow up? Right? I don't know. Well, I can't help you build your business plan till you answer those questions. Right? 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 Your exit. What do you mean exit strategy? I haven't even created it yet. I need to know because your marketing and sales is different depending on your strategy. And that's a fact, right? If you want to. So I have a friend who in 2010 created a co-working space just for women. Now, of course, men can come. But if you walked into that place, it's like being in a spa. That was her intention, for it to be like a spa. And lots of learning, lots of support, ridiculous, perfect place for a new entrepreneur to go. Her exit strategy is, because she's in the middle of it right now, is to franchise and then get the golden parachute. She's franchising now, and she's got maybe half a dozen across the country sites. Right. And she practiced franchising. She opened up one place that was still hers and wrote down, what is it that I would have, right?
Test the model.
Right. And then she did it a second time with less hands-on to see whether her right. And then she was ready. Right.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
Relocations prior to franchising. And the reason is the third one, you should just not be involved at all.
Right.
Doing what she's doing. Yeah, the first one you own, but you put the right person in.
Right.
So you're just kind of hovering over them.
Right.
The second one, you're hovering less. And the third one, you're not hovering at all.
Right. Exactly. And it succeeds. And so now you've got your template.
Plus, yeah, you're going to tweak your whole processes with three. With one, you can't tweak. Right. You'll tweak a little bit, but it'll only go so far. But with three, you're going to learn different dynamics because now you have an enterprise.
Right. And you understand location.
That's it.
Right. And so all of these things are so, so important, not just in running a business, but in running your life.
Yeah.
Because shit happens, babe. And it happened a couple of years ago, and it's going to happen again. Not a pandemic, but change happens.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's slow, but it's not. It hits its apex, and that is what makes it look like it's fast. But you can see when you look back the subtle changes that were going on, right? So change is happening because that's life. You can pop me in at any time over my lifetime, and if I said change is happening, I'd be right.
The only constant is change.
Right. And so you learned some amazing lessons from that business from getting back on your feet and, putting your big boy pants on. I say my big girl panties on, right? And getting out there and leaving your ego aside, because here you just lost everything and you have to
Yeah.
face these people who did not
Right.
and convince them you can help them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't easy. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say it was.
Yeah.
I mean, they were like, "Oh, you're still around," and I was like, "Oh, you're still around." And it's like, yeah. And I shut it down. I mean, I had the LLC up on the fourth day, and all the licenses ready to go, and because I have that knowledge, and it was like, yeah, I have this whole new company. Well, the second company grew. I learned real fast. If I talked to someone and I said, listen, I want to grow this company. And they're like, well, you can't. And I'm like, why? And they go, because it's you. I'm like, what's wrong with me? And they go, no, 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 no. It's you. And I'm like, okay, what's wrong with me? And they're like, just
Company is
you.
not you. That's
It's
called right.
you. They're
Right.
singular.
Right.
You need you. And I was like, oh,
I
just
need to clone me.
clone myself. So I started cloning myself, and all of a sudden the business just, because all of a sudden working just with the locals, they talk, they're all in the industry and they talk like everyone's looking at them from another state going, what happened? You just got beaten up, you lost this and this, and now you're doing good. What's going on? Oh, I got Steve helping us. Who's Steve?
Right.
And so I cloned myself. The business took off. I actually ended up selling that in its third year.
So there's the golden parachute.
Yeah. And then it was like, now what?
Right. Right. So, and that's what I mean by serial entrepreneur. I have a dear friend who grew a very large, profitable, top of the line PR and marketing firm in the movie industry. And, her plan was to sell it. And she did, and she had a clause where she still had to be there for a while. And she quickly learned that she doesn't like working for people. Well, she never did. She always owned her own business. And now she's got two other businesses she's starting up because she's like, yeah, once you do it,
Yeah.
marketing's marketing. Right?
Yeah. If you know the formula, it works in any business.
Right. Right. And the confidence in that. So let's get back to what that means from a personal perspective and from personal power. You see, I was never an entrepreneur until I was pushed into it, but I was always successful in the businesses where I worked. I went up the ladder at rocket speed, became the leader within 2 to 3 years wherever I worked. Didn't matter. And had amazing respect from senior leadership, with the exception of the last company that I worked at. What was the skill set? It was not so much a skill set, Steve. And I think with you, what we're saying is it's a belief that I did it once. Heck, I can do it again. Right. And the belief that you are capable. And so many people don't believe they can.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So was there ever a time where you lost faith in yourself and your ability?
Oh, yeah.
Which one do you want to hear about, Gail?
Yeah. I mean, after that, it was like I had zero faith in myself. Zero.
Yeah.
And even when I started the second business, I had a lot of doubt about everything. Like, am I going to be able to do this? How am I going to say this? I mean, I was doubt, and no faith in myself. And I said, you just got to put on the smiley face because you have the knowledge that they don't have it and they need the help that you can provide them. And it started really every day. I would say, like, you're here to help them. You're here to help them. And then I kept saying that to myself. And then it was like after a couple of weeks of pounding the phone and the pavement, it was like, there we go. I started getting the belief back.
Right. And so I think I love that line, here to help them.
That's it. It's my goal. It's, you know,
Right.
I'm here to, I have this knowledge. Do I know like about semiconductors and all of that stuff? Heck no. But do I have to? Heck no. I know business. I'm passionate about business. I love business. But if I can help a business owner, and that's my job, my goal, my passion, and help them realize their goals and dreams, there you go.
It's delicious, isn't it?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like you notice it wasn't all about the money. It's listen, I teach a class. I've done it for 6 years. ABCs of starting a business. I don't charge for it. It's for entrepreneurs and soon to be entrepreneurs thinking about, I call jumping the cubicle, getting out of the job.
Right.
And I give them the good, the bad, the ugly. And people say, why do you do that? And I go, I've had this happen after those 3 hour meetings or those 3 hour workshops. People have come up to me and give me a hug and say, thank you. And I go, thank you for what? And they're like, for talking me out of doing this. And I'm like, you thought about it. And they go, I realized during this time, I am not an entrepreneur. And you saved me money, time. It could have been my family, my house. You saved me from not doing something I am not ready for.
And here's the interesting thing. So we're right in the middle of the group, we're calling, or I'm hearing being referred to as the Great Resignation, right?
Yeah.
People are resigning. And my concern is they're resigning to do what?
That's it.
Now, I totally support that business, many businesses, not all businesses, because I know some amazing business owners.
Yeah.
But from a perspective of the majority, see humans as a resource, not as humans, and treat them as a cog in the process. And because of the opportunity to look inward and work remotely, people don't want that anymore.
Yeah.
And so they're saying, what was that movie Network? I'm not going to take it anymore. Right? They're screaming out their window that they're
Yeah.
fed up and they're not going to take it anymore. What will that mean? The businesses that survive are the businesses that embrace. I have a new talk that I do, a keynote, and it's called Crafting the Flow Formula. And it's people who get into flow, businesses that understand flow, and businesses that function at a flow level.
Mm.
They will survive, because those that have left, so listen to me, guys, those that have left and find out that being on my own is pretty crappy too, will be looking not to get back into where they were. They're going to be looking for the flow.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no shame in working for someone else. I
Yeah.
loved what I did for many of the jobs I had, right? Because I got to lead teams, I got to be creative, I got to fail safely,
Mm-hmm.
right? Fail and I still have a paycheck tomorrow, right? And so I got to play big because I worked in big companies. Play big. A girl who never went to college and was a street gang kid got to play big. Holy crap, right? And I took that knowledge into the entrepreneur world and got, thank God for that co-working space, got my reality turned around. So talk to me a little bit about, all right, so you had what we're calling imposter syndrome now. Um, and you have what, 7 or 8 businesses that you've built and sold and built and sold, and since then what
Yeah.
are you doing now, and how do you keep the imposter syndrome, or what do you do when the imposter syndrome pops up? Because I know for me, every once in a while she rears her ugly head.
I think it does for every entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's just part of being an entrepreneur. We get to that one client who just is that one person or that one prospect that, doesn't get our message, and it makes us think twice. And I took a technique from a coach I learned years and years ago. And they said, anytime you have imposter syndrome, and they said, always keep your resume up to date. And I'm like, well, I'm an entrepreneur. No one wants it. First of all, there's two things wrong. A, I don't want to work for somebody else. And B, no one wants to hire me because I'm an entrepreneur.
Right.
I am unemployable.
Right.
And they go, no, always keep your resume up to date. Put in all your accomplishments, awards, everything. Always put all that in. And I'm like, why? And they go, for a couple of reasons. You ever get imposter syndrome, pull out your resume and read it. Not just look at it, read it out loud. Then you're going to realize you're not an imposter. And they go, if that's not enough, it's a journal of your history. So when people say, what did you do while you're at this, while you own this business, you're going to try to remember it all. And guess what? Having it on a piece of paper or on your electronic file, it's all right there.
Right.
And they go, you will not believe all the things you actually accomplish. And when you do that, when you have that imposter syndrome starting to feel over you, I pull out my resume and going, oh my God, who is this guy?
Right.
And then
I'm pretty awesome.
I did that.
Yes.
And it's like imposter syndrome, go bye-bye.
Right.
Real fast.
Right.
And it's a simple technique, doesn't cost anything. And it takes 15 minutes. But you know what? That imposter syndrome, if you don't fix it, it will last and kill your business.
Right. Right. I can remember just recently saying to someone, oh, I think it was last week because of the keynote that I got a chance. I killed it. I killed it. And I got in touch with a friend of mine. I went, I kicked ass. Right. Right. And so it's those moments, right, where all of the knowledge that you have come to bear. And there are moments in your everyday life that your knowledge and your capabilities come to bear, even if it's just for a minute, every day. That's why many coaches, and I'm one of them, will say, I want you to send me 3 amazing things that happened today.
That.
Because they did happen. You just haven't been paying attention. Right?
Yeah, it's nothing crazy and complex, but you got to be accountable to yourself. Or that's why I have 2 coaches now. How can I tell people to have a coach if I don't have one?
Right.
And how can I tell people to get into my mastermind if I'm not in one?
Right.
It's like, I'm in 2 masterminds. Why? They do different things in my life. And what I get out of it helps me in my life and in my business.
Right.
Balance.
Exactly. So I would say that I have a mentor, not a coach now. And I'm in a mastermind. I just stepped out of one because it was no longer supporting what I need. But
it will change.
Yes.
And I tell people, it's like, I don't have the same coach I had 5 years ago.
Oh my God, no, you've changed.
God, no.
Right. And don't be surprised if you're in the type of business I'm in. I can't tell you how many times I found myself coaching my coaches.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Well,
and I'm like, oh,
daily.
Okay, we're I think we're done. I'm gonna go get me another coach. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I have 8 coaches underneath me. I spoke to 2 of them. I had coffee with both of them yesterday, and they got stuck. And I'm like, I know the exact solution. Have you done this, this, and this? And they all looked at me like, oh my God.
Oh my God. Yep. Right.
I go, let's do those 3 things and you're gonna get unstuck.
Right. And it's simple things, but the life is full of ups and downs. It's full of surprises. It's full of unplanned, unforeseen, unexpected events. Right. And you can be on top of the world like Steve was, and 2 days later be eating dirt and feeling All right. So you felt shame, you felt responsible, you felt like a loser.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. All the self-doubt kicked in. I mean, it
yeah,
was
all of
everything.
the self-doubt. And like I said, okay, for the pity party for a minute.
Yeah, and you got to give yourself that time,
Yes.
honestly. And I learned that years after that. At the time, I mean, I just couldn't move, physically, mentally.
Right.
But years later, I found out that was actually what you should do
Right. Exactly.
because
Honor what
you
happened.
got to honor it. And I mean, I sold businesses, and then what do? I didn't get on one of them. I started a new business the next day. Years later, I found out that was the worst thing I could have done.
Yeah.
And I was told it's like you should have given a week to celebrate and enjoy the moment. But
Right.
instead, you started another one. You never got to enjoy it or celebrate it or honor it. And it affected the next business.
Right.
And you don't know it affects it. You think everything's peachy, but
Right.
something creeps in later in the business. Could be a year, could be 6 months, who knows when, that you didn't take the moment to celebrate your last success.
And it's the same for those who are in a career versus owning a business,
Absolutely. You get a
right?
promotion. Party
Celebrate.
up.
Oh my God.
Celebrate.
Yes. Yes. So I had a job that I got that was within the company that I was in a change of department. And a couple of things happened. My new boss had a huge celebration and gifts for me for coming. And I'll tell you, one of them was a pair of brass balls, right? Because I was in a leadership position in a tough department, right? The next was the department I was leaving and the department that I was going into got together and took me out for dinner and drinks and celebrating, right? And it was hilarious because one department was like, we got her, ha ha. And the other was mourning that they lost. How did I feel? I
Mm-hmm.
felt on top of the world,
That's it.
right? So that is something. So, those of you who are in leadership roles, those of you who have people under you who come and go, you know, don't let them walk out the door quietly and then the next day they're just not there.
No. No.
Celebrate their life and then mourn their
Yeah.
loss. Even the person that you don't want there anymore brought value to your department or to your business, right? And so honor that.
So, I mean, one of the businesses I turned around, I knew had a D-Day date. This is going to be my final day. And I'm the one who left because my contract was up actually 4 years ago. And so I made it a week of Steve to celebrate. So I negotiated with vendors, with all of our main people and everything that I would eat at the only 5-star restaurant in the state of Arizona on them.
On them,
Confident.
right?
I just made sure I get a room at the only 5-star resort in the state of Arizona on for free. I
Right.
did these little teeny wins, and I gave myself at that time because I had a mentor, and they said, whatever you do, don't look at your next business. Don't look at what's next for one
Right.
week. So the week of Steve, it's the week of Steve. Every day I did something that someone else paid for. I negotiated, celebrated, partied with, whatever it was, and enjoyed it. And then when the week was over, I was now mentally done, physically done. And then I slept over the weekend. Monday morning, I started the next business.
Isn't that like the best thing ever?
I
So even
was so rejuvenated.
right. So even in mourning, so in your
It was a wake. Think of it as
yes,
a wake.
yes,
I mean, the
celebration of
vendors were
life.
happy to do this because I treated them so good throughout the years.
Right.
And I just said, listen, I'm leaving. Can I ask a favor? And they're like, whatever. And I told them, they're like, that's it. Well, and they threw stuff in. And I'm like, we'll never see each other again. They're like, that's fine.
Right. Right. And you don't know that. Never
You
is
don't
ever
know that, but
right.
at the time it was I had a feeling some of these vendors I'd never see again. Really, it
Yeah.
was a very unique business.
Yeah. Well, but you also created, the energy of karma,
Oh yeah,
right?
I still talk to a lot of them to this day, and that's
Right.
over a decade ago.
Right. Because you celebrated.
Yeah,
So celebrate, mourning and celebrating. Those are the two
yeah.
things that are really, really important throughout life, through the ups and the downs. Um, is to mourn and celebrate. So many of us don't do either one of them, and we push the feelings down,
Yeah.
right? And we destroy the deliciousness of life, because when you push those feelings down, they're going to express themselves,
That's it.
in another
That's
way.
it.
Yes.
I made some things very outlandish to see if someone would say yes to it, and everyone said yes to everything. I got to ride a buffalo.
Yeah.
Who gets to say that
Right. Right. For free.
for free? In it, no, not only that, through an old 1880s Western town. So
In Arizona, I think I know where you were.
yeah, in Arizona, yeah, yeah. I mean, we brought a buffalo in because we have a petting zoo, and it was a baby at the time. So every day, I went out and petted the buffalo, and they got used to me, and I got in the pen with them. And I mean, here it is, a 2-ton animal, and of course, it grows fast. But by the time 2 years later, that animal, we it was fine. So when I hopped up, and you don't ride buffaloes, when I hopped up, he didn't flinch or anything
Right.
because we were comfortable with each other.
Right. So
I was
that's
scared
crazy.
to death, don't get me wrong, but
Right. And that's a whole other podcast that we could be talking about, doing something that scares you to death, but what fun when you did it.
when I did it, I was like, this is so cool.
Right. So from bubble bursting businesses to Buffalo, bubble bursting
Yeah.
businesses to Buffalo. Say that fast 5 times. I think I like that for the title.
Yeah. Bubble burst to Buffalo, yeah.
To Buffalo. Yes, exactly, exactly. So, and on that note, Steve, there's so much that you've gone through, that you've learned, that you could share, that is transmutable, not only just to building your business, and I don't say just lightly, but not only in building your business, but in building your life.
Yeah.
How you do one thing is how you do everything, and that is a fact. And if you allow yourself to feel the pain, allow yourself to celebrate the joy. So allow yourself to recognize the emotions that you're going through. You allow yourself to succeed. And
That's
the
it.
imposter syndrome's a moment instead of a lifetime.
Yeah, you just gotta, don't like try to suppress it. That's the worst thing. Deal
Right.
with it.
Be it,
And
yes.
everyone deals with it in their own way. And I found a way to deal with it in mine. And I have every time I even think about it, I just pull up the resume. It takes, I just look at the first paragraph. I'm good now.
Right, right, right.
I'm
Oh
so
yeah,
happy with
yeah,
myself. I break my arm, pat myself on the back,
right.
and now I realize,
I'm just
okay,
a
enough of that.
bomb.
Yeah.
Right.
Throwing glitter all over myself. Like, yay, me. And then
Oh,
it's
I
like,
love
okay,
that.
back to work.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. And that's, you give yourself permission. Give yourself permission. So thank you, Steve. And if people wanted to know more about you and get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Always have my website, bizcoachsteve.com. So it's BIZ, Coach Steve. And I got tons of resources to help people out. Our podcast, tons of videos to help business owners on so many subjects. Just please use the resources. We're
Use
trying to
the
help
resource.
your business grow.
Awesome. Fantastic. And your contact information and all about you will be in the notes, in the show
Great.
notes. And again, this is Gail Kraft. Thank you so much from the empowering process. If something came up that you love, do let us know. If maybe a question came up, put the question down. Steve and I would be happy to answer it. And if you know someone who maybe could learn from this or get something out of it, share it out to them. But always, always, always like us, subscribe so that you know about other episodes that are coming up. Thank you so much, Steve. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.